Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing something that we haven't done in a little bit just because we've been covering a lot of tropics. So as many of you do know, Tropical Storm Karen, it's went beyond Puerto Rico, and it's just in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean right now. So once it does get there, it's going to stay in the same spot for a while, so we do actually have time to make videos on other things. There's even a chance that Karen won't affect anyone and just dissipate out in the ocean. We'll have to see, but right now we're thinking it may still take that western turn, but I'm not going to worry about it for now because it'll be probably until next week until we start to see that turn happening. So I'm not, or late this week or really early next week. So I'm not really going to worry about that right now. I want to cover something different. Today we're going to be covering a little bit of a, longer range forecast, not a completely long range forecast, but this is pretty much late next week. We're going to see a pattern change to where we'll see these cooler temperatures in the east and warmer temperatures in the west, and I'll show you it. I'll show you the anomalies, what your exact temperatures could be, and I'll be showing the anomalies through the GEFS ensembles and the EPS ensembles. So if you do go on to enjoy today's video, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below, and let's go ahead and get into it. So you can see right now, the warmest of our temperatures are especially across this region. Now you can see we do have some warmer temperatures over here, but it usually is pretty warm over there. But if we were to actually look to this time, you can see this is around your 18Z on Wednesday. You can see how we've had a lot of these cooler temperatures across the northwest. We do have some across parts of the Arizona and western New Mexico areas, but especially in the northwest, we saw this bit of a cool down, and pretty much the whole west the past few days has been pretty cool. If we were to go back in time, you can see it's been pretty cool across the west. But you can see if we keep going, it's going to still be warm, really warm across the central and eastern part of the United States until the beginning of October. You can see the beginning of October, it should be pretty hot for a lot of regions. You can see we do have really hot temperatures in place for the central and eastern United States. The western side is pretty cool. You can see bitter cold conditions possible across some of these regions, but you will see as we move into the second, we just see a slight move east. If we do move into the second right here, you can see right here, you can see the slight move east, just a little bit, and this warmer air is starting to go a little bit southeast. Now it's going to be a little bit of a slow, it's going to go a little slow, but you can see all this cold air behind, and this does involve, if y'all do remember, that I did cover it the other day to where we are expecting us to be, we are expecting, we have this snowstorm for the northwest that is going to drop a lot of snow, as I was covering the other day. And once this does come over, it'll be around your Thursday through your Friday. It goes across the country. It'll be going like this. And once this gets over here, it's going to be really cold, or just cooler, not really cold, but cooler conditions than average. So you will see this big bunch of blue, which is cooler air, quite a bit below average. You will see as the storm does move through on your Thursday and your Friday, that this cooler air starts to move in, and especially by your Friday evening and afternoon, and then by your Saturday, you can see a drastic change. We're starting to see some of this warmer air to rise in the west. We still do have some warmer air across the southeast, but that's just the southeast for you. But you can see how we do have a lot of these cooler temperatures across the mid-Atlantic, the northeast, still across the far northern tier of the United States. We still do have it too. But you can see how a lot of that cooler air is starting to come down to the east and into the east coast and the central United States too, we can't forget. And you can see on your Sunday it's even cooler for a lot of these regions, but you can see the whole country could be cooler on your Sunday. So we could see next weekend, not this upcoming weekend, but next weekend, we do see this pattern change to where, you can see some of the warm air trying to grow in the west. But you can see we'll still have those cooler temperatures for a little bit as we start to, because that pattern won't change like that. It's going to take a little bit of time. But the biggest thing to note here is we're seeing cooler temperatures across here for the most part. And you can see how by your let's go to your Monday. You can see how we do have a lot of these warmer temperatures across the west and the south, the south central United States, parts of many parts of it. And you can see we have this cooler air across parts of the East Coast and the northern tier of the United States. So the major pattern change here would be the eastern United States getting cooler. And you can see right here how a lot of the United States is cooler in your afternoon temperatures, but especially this northeast mid-Atlantic area, and then up across the whole northern tier of the United States, parts of the west, and the central United States. So most of the U.S. is pretty below average. Now you'll see once we get into your ninth, if we get into the ninth, you can see how there's a little bit of a difference. This is when we finally start to see the pattern change starting to set into place. Now you have saw the beginning of that pattern change starting around the 4th or 5th, all that cooler air starting to move into the central United States east to where we're seeing those cooler temperatures moving in, those warmer temperatures going away. But you can see somewhere around, probably around the 10th of October, this is saying, we see this warmer air emerge across the west. And you do remember, we've been seeing cooler temperatures across the west. And you can see across the central and eastern United States, we have a lot of blue, which does indicate below average temperatures. You can see some across northern Minnesota, Montana, especially in this area, because we are going to be seeing quite a bit of snow. We'll have snow cover on the ground at the time, and it's just those really high elevations right there. So I'm not surprised with that. That's really high elevations. It's always going to be cold there. And you can see as we keep moving deeper into the 10th of October, you can see we do have this blue over here with your cooler temperatures. Parts of the northern tier still a little cooler, but the big story here you can see is this huge pattern flip to where we're seeing the warmer temperatures across a big bunch of the U.S. A big bunch of the West, and the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast are a little cooler. So that's our big difference that we have, not been seeing. You can see into the 11th, these warmer temperatures really starting to emerge, especially across your Nevada, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, all of Arizona into California, and you can see we have these cooler temperatures across northern Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, also into parts of the mid-Atlantic states into the Northeast. Now, if we were to look in here, I am expecting to see cooler temperatures in here too, so don't worry if you're in there. We'll probably be seeing cooler than average temperatures probably throughout this whole area right here. So to be ready, sometime around the 5th of October, 4th or 5th, we'll be seeing cooler temperatures across this region, and then warmer temperatures most likely across this region. I could even take this cooler temperatures just west a little. I'd say, we could take them down here a little, just for a little bit. We're going to have to see how that does work out. But our main difference, you can see, is how after the 4th of October, the west starts to get a little warmer, but you can see the mid-Atlantic states and the northeast states pretty much stay cooler throughout the whole week. So about 2 weeks from now, you can see this, late next week into 2 weeks from now, we could be seeing this, and this could stay. You can see we do have a lot of this cooler air up in Canada, so we're not seeing any warm air coming down at the time, so it could keep going through that week, and who knows how much longer. That could actually be what sets us up for fall, and you can see how this warmer air in the west really doesn't look like it's going away, so we're going to have to be watching out for that. Okay, so if we were to look across your shaded temperatures, this is just what your exact temperatures can look like. You can see right now it's been very hot. You can see how we have 90s across a lot of the southeast, 80s across the mid-Atlantic. You can see 90s across Texas, 90s across Louisiana, even 70s across a lot of the Ohio Valley, parts of the Northeast. Parts of the Northeast are a little cooler up here in parts of Maine, but you can see generally we're pretty warm across the central and eastern United States. But you can see up here we have the 50s. We do have some 50s in place. But if we were to look at the nighttime temperatures, this is what really tells it all. You can see how we have some 80s in Texas for your nighttime temperatures, 70s, high 60s for the southeast, pretty much the southeast, south central United States, and you can see 60s in parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. That's pretty unseasonably warm for the cooler temperatures, low temps. But you can see we do have this little bit of a wedge that we always do see when cooler temperatures, start to move in a little bit, or just usually we see cooler temperatures in this wedge to where we have those 40s up north and those down south we have those 50s. But generally you can see it's warmer across the south, the central and the east, and then cooler across especially the northwest. Now if we were to go into, let's see, the 2nd. you can see how we have these really cold temperatures across a lot of the northwest, even parts of the west we have them. And you will see how these do move this way. Here's the line of our warmest temperatures. You can see the fair line right here. And you can see how we do have these bitter cold temperatures with the system that will be over here dropping some snow and will bring possibly some severe weather across the United States, especially the central United States. And you will see how we start on your, let's go back to your 4th. You will see how the cooler temperatures are really moving in. You can see on your 4th, high temperatures for the east. We have some 80s and 90s, but very far down southeast to where we usually do see that in parts of southern Alabama, southern Georgia, southern Mississippi, southern Texas, parts 80s in Louisiana, 80s and 90s in Florida. Very, very seasonable. That's pretty much what we do see across those regions at this time of year. But you can definitely see the big change. The biggest, hottest temperatures are our high 80s, and those are at the very southeast part. You can see across the mid-Atlantic, we have 60s and 50s for highs, even 40s across parts of Maine, parts of New Hampshire, parts of Vermont. And you can see we do have 30s and 40s across a lot of the northern tier of the United States, parts of Indiana, Illinois. We have 50s and 60s, but you can see across parts of the southwest, we have these 80s and stuff in place. But we have to go front a little bit because usually our highs are a little later across the west because of the time difference. We have to go back a little bit far when it comes to the Z. Z is pretty much, it's another time zone. You just have to subtract it by a certain amount to get your time here. So, but you can see across the west we do have some 70s, and we do have some 60s, which, that's not extremely hot, but you do have to think that this time it'll be cooler. But you can see how on your Sunday, next week, this is not this week, you'd have to remember, but next week, and this would be on next week Sunday, and you can see how we do have these 70s across a big chunk, and that 70s and 60s, that is a pretty good cool down from where we're seeing 80s and 90s right now. You can see parts of the northeast, 40s and 50s, and then of course across the northern tier, 40s and 50s, even 30s in your highest elevations across the northwest. And you can see as we move into your Monday, same deal, getting a little cooler even. And you can see as we get into your Tuesday, you can see some of these warmer temperatures starting to build across the southwest. You keep watching these, and you'll see how these cooler temperatures stay in these regions throughout a lot of this time. And you'll see that as we do keep moving forward. I would actually even bring that in. You'll see how, as we move forward a little bit, those cooler temperatures do stay in place. You can see lows. I do want to cover the low temperatures. 40s, maybe even mid-50s for parts of the mid-Atlantic to the north, maybe even some 30s, where we could get some mountain snow in parts of Maine. You can see 40s and 30s as generally our thing across the northern tier of the United States, Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic states. You can see 60s for parts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. We do have some 70s, but that is pretty seasonable. That's not, it's not like we never see that. You can see next Wednesday, so 2 weeks from now, exactly 2 weeks from now, you can see same thing. The warmest of the temperatures in Florida, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, parts of Louisiana, very southern Texas, very southern Georgia, and you can see we do have these some warm temperatures across California and parts of Arizona also. And you can see the next Thursday, cold temperatures still staying over here, 60s and 50s, and northern tier of the United States still 40s, 50s, and 60s also into the Ohio Valley, also into Kansas and Nebraska. Missouri, we're actually seeing those 60s, which is, pretty good this time of year. Still for some of those areas, it's a little bit above average, but this is a major cool down from what we're seeing right now. And for some of these areas, it is below average across the mid-Atlantic. You can see for lows, this is where we may be. For this time of year, that's pretty seasonable. Just the most seasonable conditions is pretty much what's coming. We're starting to get more of our seasonable fall conditions. You can see warmer across the south. We always do see that. Coolest across the north, kind of in the middle across here, and then across the southwest we're warm, and then across these regions of the west we just have those very mountainous regions, which is where we see those cooler temperatures, where we do see the cold temperatures. If we were to look at the European, you can see how this does keep the consistently warm air across the south, the central and eastern United States, and you can see this cooler air that does come through as we get this snow system to come across the northwest, and we do have a few other areas that we're watching that is bringing the cooler air across the west. But you can see how we get into your Tuesday, into your Wednesday. This will be October 2nd, October 4th and 5th, if you do remember, is what we're watching. You can see this cooler air is starting to move a little bit east, and so is the warm air. And if we were to keep looking into, if we were to look into your Thursday, you can see that line I did right for your Wednesday. It's moved a little bit east into your Thursday, and you can see by your Friday, it's starting to move majorly east, and you can see some of these areas where the cooler temperatures were, we're getting warmer temperatures. Still in the southeast by next Friday, we do have some warmer conditions here, but you will definitely see how that does change as we do keep going. You can see across the northeast, parts of the central United States, the Great Lakes regions were cooler by next Friday. Next Friday, but you can see by your Saturday, we do get those cooler temperatures across a lot of the northeast and parts of the mid-Atlantic also. I do expect some of the cooler temperatures to move down through here. Usually, at this time of year, we get these little mini troughs that do go throughout here. If you do remember, we do have the Appalachian Mountains through here. So usually we do get some cooler air to move through into these regions. We usually do see that to where it kind of gets, you just get that cooler air near the mountains, so it kind of comes in through there, kind of wedged in. So that is one area where it could be cooler too. You can see across there. And then parts of the west still cooler at this time. You do remember this pattern flip has not overall happened. Remember, this is a little bit behind just because the European does not go as far out. That's the 5th, but remember, beyond the 5th, it does change quite a bit. I'll show you the 5th again in a minute. But if we were to look at the 5th right here for parts of the GFS model, you can see it's pretty on point with the European model. So it does have a little bit of those cooler conditions across the whole north, but pretty much for the northeast, it looks about the same. And if we were to keep going on the GEFS, you can see that cooler trend does keep going a little bit more south into the parts of the other parts of the East Coast, and we see these warmer conditions emerge across the west. And you can see there are some, the reason this is right here is because this is your evening hours, and I still do think the nighttime lows won't be total seasonably, but they will be pretty nice. And we are seeing a cooler trend across the eastern United States and the northern United States, and then across the west, probably 2 weeks from now, we'll be seeing the cooler temperatures move in, but especially across late next week for the east and the central United States, expect we're seeing a cool down, and I'm pretty excited for it myself. But yeah, guys, I hope y'all did enjoy today's video. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.